Welcome back to Remote Learning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. This is the second video for 5th grade. I just finished up with 4th grade and they did 1-point perspective. 5th graders, you guys are going to go even further and do 2-point perspective. You've learned the basics of perspective drawing in 2nd grade. However, not everybody who's here now was here back in 2nd grade. So it's important that I go back and review, make sure everybody's on the same page before we begin. Perspective drawing is something you want to know if you want to be any type of architect, engineer, or designer in the future. And I know not everybody wants to be an artist, so let's say way in the future you become so successful at whatever it is you decide to do, you don't just want to buy a house, you want to build one from scratch. When you hire somebody, it might be a lot smoother for you if you at least knew what they were talking about. Just something to think about. Anyway, in the past we've talked about forced perspective, where things are bigger when they're close to you and smaller when they get further away. We've also talked about atmospheric perspective, where things are darker in color when they're close to you and appear to get lighter in color as they get further away. We've also talked about 1-point perspective, with the horizon line where the sky and the ground seem to meet, and the vanishing point where the diagonal lines seem to point to or meet. Remember how a long time ago we talked about how artists use math to draw what they actually saw and not what they thought they saw? Well, at some point there was an artist that was walking around bored, looking for something to draw. He came upon a house. He walked around to the front of the house and said, nah, I've already drawn fronts of houses, that's boring. Then he walked around to the side of the house and said, now, I've been there, done that. I need to find something new to draw. He walked around, all the way around the house, and then stopped at one of the corners. His eyes opened up wide. He had an idea. He said, I can draw the front of the house and the side of the house at the same time. How did he do it? I'm going to show you. You're only going to need a pencil and a piece of paper for this project. Coloring will be optional. All right. 5th grade, welcome back. We are going to be doing 2-point perspective. So I got my paper, I have my pencil, I have my pencil sharpener, and I need something to make a straight line with. And just like with the 4th grade project that I did, I don't have a ruler with me down here where I'm working at, so I'm going to use a piece of cardboard. You can use anything that can make a straight edge that's not too flimsy. So this cardboard, like you would find at the back of your notebook, will work perfectly. First, I'm going to do some reference information on the side, just like I did with 4th grade's project. 4th grade's project, where 1-point perspective, they had 3 different types of straight lines. For a 2-point perspective, at least for this one, we're only going to have 2 different types of straight lines. And listen to the words carefully. All of the tops and bottoms are going to be diagonal lines. All of the sides are going to be straight vertical lines. We only got 2 different types of lines in this project. We're going to be making a city, but in 2-point perspective. Now, if you want to make a horizon line perfect, we're going to make it at the center of the page. You can fold it short edge to short edge. Open it up. Again, nothing wrong with being a perfectionist. And now you have the middle of the paper. I'm going to take my cardboard and I'm going to hold it still with my free hand, and I'm going to drag my pencil along the edge of the cardboard, making sure that the pencil lead is touching the cardboard so that I have a straight line from one side to the other side. Now I've drawn a horizon line. If you don't know or don't remember, the horizon line is where the sky and the ground seem to meet. It's called the horizon because it's the furthest that your brain can make sense of through your eyeballs. That's the furthest. Unless you have superhuman sight, which nobody does, the furthest you can see is called the horizon. On the horizon line, we're going to do 2 vanishing points this time. Kind of close to the edge, but not all the way. Then we're going to draw our, let's say, if you're a baseball fan, we'll call this the home base line. We're always going to be working from this long straight line. Now you can make it as long or as short as you want to, but I'm going to go pretty long so that some of my buildings can be tall and some can be short. So I'm going to go almost to the top, and then I'm going to go halfway to the bottom. So I'm going to go straight through the horizon line vertically and then halfway down to the bottom. So this is going to be my home base line. I'm going to be working from this line. This is the edge of our first building. If you were looking at the corner of a building and you could see both sides at the same time, both the front and the side, this is that first corner line. Alright, so from the tops and the bottoms, we're going to make sure that those diagonal lines line up with the vanishing point. I suggest that you draw lightly, because remember, we make a lot of guidelines, which are lines just to make sure that they're pointing in the right direction towards the right vanishing point, but we're not going to keep all of that line. Some of it's going to be erased. So now I have my guidelines for the top and the bottom of my city on the left side, pointing towards the left vanishing point, and I'm going to do the same thing for the right vanishing point, top and the bottom. Remember, tops and the bottoms diagonal. Make sure that it touches the vanishing point. There is no way to cheat on this. If it's not touching the vanishing point or pointing towards the vanishing point, it's going to be incorrect. Alright, now that I have the guidelines for my city on the left side and the right side, I can start drawing some buildings. So now I'm going to do the sides of the buildings. You can decide how wide or how skinny or narrow you would like it to be. So let's say I want the one side of this building to be kind of narrow. I just need to drop a straight line in between the top guideline and this bottom guideline all the way down here. So now this is the first side of my first building. If it helps you, which it will, you can erase the part of the horizon line that's in between the buildings. We're still going to keep these little lines on the outside, but we're going to erase whatever's on the inside. Too much junk. Now I'm going to do the other side of my building. Gonna scoot over, and I want this to be a little wider. So I'm gonna again drop a straight line for the side in between the top guideline and the bottom guideline. Now I have one side of my building and the other side of the building, and this is the corner that you would be looking at, where you can see the front and the side at the same time. It's pretty cool, isn't it? This is 2-point perspective. Now I'm going to move on and I'm going to do another building. But this is where it gets kind of tricky once you move on from building number 1. Think of each building as their own separate thing. So I'm going to make another corner line. For my second building. Now remember, I'm working on the left side of that corner line and the right side of that corner line. The right side of the corner line is going to point towards the right vanishing point. So I'm going to just drop a straight line for the side in between the top guideline and the bottom guideline. Now this is the tricky part. The left side of this corner line is going to point towards the left vanishing point. Well, how do I do that? You need to take your cardboard and you're going to line it up with the top of your second building and the left vanishing point. Then you're going to draw a line from the top towards the left vanishing point. But I don't have to go all the way. As long as I know that it's pointing towards that vanishing point, I can stop at my first building. I don't want to go through it. And now that is drawn in perspective. I can erase the part of the guideline that I don't need. And now I have two buildings drawn in 2-point perspective. I can even do the bottom. Now that I have the hang of it, I'm going to again make sure that the bottom is pointing towards the vanishing point, and I'm going to draw a diagonal line from the bottom, and I'm going to stop at my first building. And there you have it. Now I can erase the part of the guideline that I don't need anymore. So now we have two buildings completely drawn in 2-point perspective. I can do the same thing on the other side. It works the same way, except backwards. I'm going to do a corner line first. If I was looking at the side of the building and I see that edge, and now I'm going to start on the left side, make sure it points towards the vanishing point. So this is the left side pointing towards the left vanishing point, and now I need to make sure that the right side points towards the right vanishing point. I can line it up with that right vanishing point at the top and draw, and then stop at my first building. Do that at the top, and then I will do that at the bottom. And now I have my buildings on the left side drawn in 2-point perspective. So I can add more buildings if I want to. Like, let's say I add one more building. Start with my home base or my corner line first. Do the left side since it's easiest. I just need to drop a straight line. And now once I move on to the right side of this line, I have to make sure that it's pointing towards the opposite or right vanishing point. So line up the top and the vanishing point. Draw your line. Stop at the building in front of it. Can move on to the bottom part of that building. Make sure it's lined up with the vanishing point, because I'm on the right side of my home base line or my corner line. And I draw and stop at the building that's in front of it. Now I can erase all the stuff that I don't need from my guideline. Got to make sure my horizon line is still on the outside of the buildings or my city. So now I can start adding my details. Before I do my buildings, maybe I want to do the street. So first we're going to start with the bottom of the street. We're going to rotate away from the buildings or the city first. and this is going to be the bottom of the street. I'm going to draw all the way so it's under that first building. Then I'm going to switch to the left side, line up with the vanishing point, and draw towards the first line. Now it'll be easy to draw the rest of the sidewalk. Line up with the vanishing point right under these buildings on the left side, and just draw a straight line that stops right at the bottom of the first building. Then I can move to the other side and do the same thing. Just like with the 4th grade project, you'll see that there's 3 concepts at play here. There is forced perspective, with things being bigger when they're close to the viewer and then smaller as they get further away towards the vanishing points. And you also have overlapping, where buildings are partially covering other buildings. So I can add another diagonal line to separate the street on the right side, and another one on the left side. So now we have a sidewalk and we have the middle of the street, where you would have things like the crosswalk. You can obviously use a straight line for that. That's just a sketch. I can even add another diagonal line to make a sidewalk for across the street instead of just grass. So now we can have our grass over here, or a park, or whatever you would like to put over here, and we have the sidewalk, and we have the sidewalk over here and some more grass. We can have grass in between the buildings. And now we can move on to doing details in the building really quick. For our details, remember, look at each building as its own separate thing. First, we have our home base line, or our corner line, that separates the left side from the right side. If I'm working on the right side, I need to go towards the right vanishing point. I'm going to be doing the tops and the bottoms of windows. Remember, tops and bottoms are diagonal lines. So I'm going to do a guidelines towards my right vanishing point for the bottom of the windows, and I'm going to do a guideline for the tops of the windows. Remember, these lines just tell us that we're in the right direction. Now I can start dropping straight lines. I won't be a stickler for this or too strict about this, so you can just, once you have the tops and the bottoms done, you can just draw your straight lines for your windows. Doesn't have to be perfect, unless you would like it to be. Nothing wrong with that. So I got tops of windows and I have bottoms of windows. Don't need the rest of the guideline. So the tops of the windows and the bottoms of the windows are drawn in perspective. If I wanted to do that on this side, I'd be going towards the what? Left vanishing point. So I'm going to draw my guidelines, making sure I'm pointing in the right direction at the bottom and the top. Got to make sure it's lined up. And now I can drop my lines on the sides for those windows, and then erase what I don't need. For doors, it's going to work the same way. If I want to put a door on the right side, the top needs to point towards the right vanishing point. I'm going to move up, rotate a little bit, line up with that vanishing point, and that's going to be the tops of my doors. And now I'm doing the sides, and I just drop some lines. Now I have the top and the sides of my buildings. So I erase the guidelines and all the stuff that I don't need. Even on this side. Erase all the stuff you don't need. Keep the stuff that you want or that you do need. You can color this if you want to, but you don't have to. This is 2-point perspective. Keep practicing at it. You will get it. You just have to be patient and don't rush. And you have to make sure that you're using your straight edge or your ruler for this. There's no way to get around that.
mrcobbsart.com. They say